Hi everyone and welcome back to Dev Show. So for those of you that this is the very first time that you joining us, this is a weekly event. Happens every Wednesday. Sorry, every Tuesday. Today is Tuesday. That's true. So it's happening every Tuesday at 4 o'clock Central European time. And there will be one speaker and one topic and a deep dive in the topic. So you all also have opportunity to ask your questions from our speaker by typing it in the chat, no matter from where you're watching us. Is it Twitter? Is it YouTube? Is it Facebook? You can type your question, and I'm going to highlight it for the speaker in the Q&A session to get the answer for you. You can consider this show as a show from developers to developers. My name is Sherry List, and I am today your only host. Because my co-host Rasmus, that many of you might know him, he's still on vacation. Can you believe that? And this is the 31st episode of Dev Show. Before I bring the speaker board, I'm also going to, I need to mention to you that all of you, because you're going to learn new things about Azure, you're going to get an Azure Heroes Learner Badger as well. And this is going to be the very first new version of Azure Heroes as well. I'm going to talk about it slightly later. I'm going to, during the show, I'm going to paste a link on how you get your Azure Heroes Badger as well. There will be also a feedback form where I'm going to share the link as well, where I would like to see your feedback because we really want to improve it. And one of you is also going to be selected to get the swag box from Microsoft. And I really encourage you to talk to each other in the chat, and also, of course, ask your question. But please have in mind that we have a code of conduct, which is the link here. I highlighted here. But in short, I really encourage you to be mindful and respectful of each other. And please go ahead and read it. And if it is necessary, we're really going to enforce the code of conduct as well. It never happened, and I really don't want that I ever need to enforce the code of conduct. But for speaker for today is Jonah Andersson. She is working as a software developer at Forefront Consulting Sweden, and today she's going to talk about Azure Durable Functions. So let me bring Jonah on the stage. Hi, Jonah. How are you
Hi,
doing
Sherry. Hi, I'm good. I'm great. Hi, everyone who's watching here today. I hope you're having a great day, sunny day today, wherever you are.
Yeah, I guess I can see it's sunny over there, and it's also sunny here. So you're very lucky.
Yes, yeah. Glad to be here. Even though your Erasmus is not here, I'm very glad to be part of this show.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. I'm really excited to be hosting you. So Jonah, you're working as a software developer. Is there any specific project that you're working on that you want to share it with the audience? How is your daily work
Uh,
look like?
Yeah, my workday were a combination of meetings, plannings, and some coding and problem solving. So I do all that process full stack and project management. So it's great. So I'm glad to end my day by sharing more knowledge about Azure.
Yeah, and speaking of that, you also owner of some of these Azure Heroes badges that we have. Can you tell us that what are the badges that you have currently?
Yeah, recently I got the Kudos Badger for speaking at the Global Azure. I also have Inclusive Leader Badger, so Learners Badger. So I have a lot, several collections, and I'm proud to be one of the Azure heroes. As you can see, I have the badge there.
Yeah, so I have few of them around.
Yes. I don't want my dog to get it because it's valuable to me. It might be a stuffed toy, but it's special to me. It's good.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to actually mention to all of you, that Jonah is the owner of Inclusive Leader. And Inclusive Leader is one of the most valuable badges that we have. And then we have only 100 of them available for entire world. And the reason that Jonah got it, because she is a great advocate for actually having the inclusive and diverse working environment, and also she's doing a big advocacy for the women in tech as well. Thank you very much, Jonah, for actually doing all of these great works.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, okay.
It's from the heart.
Great. Okay, so I would say that maybe we better start the talk. But before that, you also recently started a new user group in your town. Is that true?
Yes, I saw that there was a missing Azure user group in my city. I live in Sundsvall, Sweden area. It's like in the mid north of Sweden, and I saw that that is missing. I'm very passionate about Azure, but I know some developers here, but there's no meetup group for it. So I started Azure user group Sundsvall, Sweden, that I
Mhm.
had a few sessions already myself, like introduction to cloud computing and some events connected to the global Azure last week. So hopefully I will be able to expand it. It's a local user group for my area, but I want it to be diverse and local, not just for not just for developers, but it should be inclusive for everyone, like beginners of Azure, for example. So
Okay.
I
Okay,
feel free
great.
to join and
Yeah,
connect
I
and
will paste the
collaborate.
link. I will paste the link in the chat because I assume that that is going to be online. So no matter where people are, they can join you.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah,
I
yeah.
just post it in the chat. Okay, so with that, I would say that stage is yours. I'm going to share your screen
Yeah,
as
sure.
well. Okay, great. So stage is yours, and I will be watching and learning from you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so the stage is mine, and today I will be sharing about serverless development with Azure Durable Functions, specifically in .NET framework. So this talk is going to be mostly fundamentals and some basic simple examples that will help you jumpstart in getting started with durable functions. So before I start, let me just share about myself. I'm Jonah Andersson, working as a software developer at Forefront Consulting, and on my free time, I I like to volunteer, being a mentor to several women in tech, and also involved in different organization in here in Sweden and even internationally. And during my work days, I code full stack development in mainly C#.net, and also very passionate in developing and learning a lot about Azure. And I created Azure User Group Sundsvall, Sweden. And if I'm not coding on my free time, I like to read books, spend time with my dog, and play some chess. So I would like to share with you this image or picture in which I had an experience at the airport when I was traveling alone from the Philippines to from Sweden to Philippines a few years ago. I was in the line and the queue in Orlando at the airport, and there were lots of people in the line, and there weren't any self service kiosks to do the check in, and there was Starbucks, and I wanted to grab a cup of coffee and I couldn't leave my place because the time is running and there were a lot of people, and I couldn't leave my place. So I had that problem or dilemma, and I had a question that I wish that I could do several things or parallel things at the same time, like grab my coffee, do something else, get some fresh air from the airport, and at the same time, don't lose my state in my line. So what's the point of my airport story here? So the point of my airport story here is that these durable functions help us in our development problems or tasks like handling parallel tasks. So durable functions should help us in solving complex workflow problems, specifically in a serverless architecture. So today I plan to give you an introduction about what cloud is, what is serverless, what are Azure functions, durable functions, the different patterns of durable functions, some simple demo, and some recommended learning resources that you can check out if you want to get started as a beginner or as someone who is already experienced and want to learn more advanced. So to start with, I would like to show the overview of cloud computing. So we see the big picture of cloud computing. So we have the on-premises and the public cloud, where we have the different deployment models. We have infrastructure as a service, we have platform as a service, we also have function as a service and software as a service. And each of them is each deployment models in the cloud are unique. They are unique and different, and which one to use is actually depends on the type of business requirements that you have in your organization or application. So today I will be focusing on function as a service or serverless, in which we as a company or the developers have the management or the assignment for data and functions. So what is serverless? So it's a pretty trendy word that we have these days. So serverless is a cloud execution model where cloud providers like Microsoft Azure provides us the back-end services on a pay-per-use model. And the good thing about serverless is that it fully abstracts servers or infrastructures, which means that we don't have, or our companies don't have to take care of or take care of maintaining the underlying infrastructures or servers behind the serverless functions. And it is scalable. It you can create serverless functions instantly, and it is also event driven. And the fact is, serverless is not really serverless. Actually, there are servers or infrastructures behind it. The only good thing or difference about serverless compared to the normal ones is that cloud providers like Microsoft Azure are removing the servers from our responsibilities, and so that we don't have to worry about that and we can focus on our development. So I like I like to create a sweet comparison, because after I like cooking, and after having a good meal, I like having something sweet, like a dessert. And dessert can come in different sizes, different forms. And I would like to compare serverless as a sweet comparison. So if we think about monolith, we have like a big piece of cake, like everything is in there in on premises, the servers, the applications, the databases in one place, and it has different layers in it. And it's big in one place. Something can happen with it. And we also have microservices like mini cupcakes. Like it has its own flavor, everything, but it's small, and you can pick what you want based on which you prefer. And there's also serverless, which is like it's like a small candies that you get small part of it. You can choose the flavor, and then it's small, and then you're satisfied. You get something sweet, so it's pretty light in the stomachs, and you don't get too full. So it's a good comparison in the sweet way. And I would like to add also the control that we have as developers and productivity when it comes to monolith versus serverless. So monolith, I haven't worked so much personally in developing with microservices, but I have a great experience in developing old monolithic architectures or systems. And in that, you have more control with the infrastructure. But at the same time, the more control you have in the monolithic architecture, it also means that you can be less productive because you have a lot of things to take care of, like infrastructures, the servers, maintain all of that aside from maintaining the systems. But when you're working with serverless, you remove that responsibility, and we developers or your development team can be more productive. So why do we need, or why would we consider serverless in Azure? So first, as mentioned earlier, it enhances our developer productivity. So we can work effectively and focus on our applications. And we also have the option to auto scale, which means that we don't have to do that manually as well in our serverless functions. And the pay-per-use model, so there's a consumption model that you only pay for what you use. And there's also the option to develop intelligent apps with serverless, which means that you can integrate your serverless functions, Azure Functions, and Durable Functions with intelligent apps like with machine learning and other cognitive services that's already in the cloud. And ability to solve complex problems like state problems in parallel tasks. So that I will be showing some example in the coming slides. And seamless connectivity is another feature in which you can integrate your serverless functions with other products, cloud services, and third-party applications. And to introduce durable functions, I would like to start with Azure Functions. So Azure Functions is a serverless computing service in Azure that is event-driven. It is, of course, a function as a service. It is triggered by events, which means it can be triggered by a file that's coming in your blob through blob trigger, and queue that's coming in, and also HTTP requests and timers. So it can be triggered by different events, and it can also be integrated with different services in Azure and third-party ones. So languages that are supported, C#, F#, JavaScript, and Java. So basically, Azure Functions is code-first approach. So you have the code, you have the events, the triggers, and you send in the data. So it's code first. So it's more focused in the code. There's another service in Azure called Logic Apps. That's the user friendly variation of using workflows as well. But you do it in a user interface like on Azure Portal as well. And this is how an Azure function looks like. For example, one of the triggers, the HTTP trigger, in which you can use the HTTP requests, getter posts, and you send a value like a name as a query. Like you send a name to that request, and you get your response back with hello, the name, the value of the name. So that's a simple example of Azure function with HTTP trigger. And the only Azure functions are great, but the problem with them is that they are stateless, which means that when the VMs or the virtual machines where the Azure functions are saved behind the scenes in the Azure cloud system, they when they are restarted, they loses their state. So that means that it's not good, especially for functions that you want to be running all the time. So this is where durable functions comes into the picture. So when you need to have or to create long running and stateful workflows, then durable functions are perfect to use as an extension. It is not a separate service. It is an extension on top of Azure Functions. So what it does, it's more like giving us the advanced features that durable functions, normal Azure functions cannot do. So it enables us to solve complex workflows, and it also you can code it in C Sharp, JavaScript, Python, F Sharp, and PowerShell. And you can use durable functions to write long-running workflows, work with recurrence intervals, manage if you want to manage the life cycles of your task, and you want to work with multiple Azure functions. So what's the technology behind durable functions? So behind durable functions, there's an open source library, which is lightweight. It's the durable task framework that you can check. The code is open on this GitHub linked on the slide. And durable functions have different types of functions. So here's the big picture in which we have the client functions, which are the entry point of the orchestration. So client functions kickstarts the orchestration. So it kind of like kicks the instance of the orchestration or the orchestrator. And the orchestrator functions describe how actions are gonna be performed, how it is done, when it should, in what order they should be running. And then we also have activity functions. Activity functions are like normal Azure functions, and they perform basic units of work in a durable orchestration. The one big difference between the activity functions in the durable orchestration workflow is that the activities in the durable orchestration are only triggered by the activity trigger from the orchestrator. So it cannot be triggered from anybody else, but it's only the orchestrator that can trigger them. However, you can use activity functions like normal ones, like getting data from external events, for example, or external triggers. So I would like to compare durable durable functions and with my dog training. With my dog, I have a dog, a Belgian Malinois dog. He is a type of dog that is a working line dog. So they're known to work as police dogs, service dog, and he's a dog that requires a lot of physical training and mental training. And one of my ways to mentally train my dog Jackson is through dog training. And dog training is, for me as an owner, it's a lifelong process, especially when I have him, of course. And I see it as a long process in a way that when I tell Jackson that it's time to play or it's time for training, it's his green ball or his toy that kickstarts it. So it's kind of like give him the interest to do something. And when he's interested, it's kind of like our flow. I myself as a trainer will be like the orchestrator, in which Jackson is so interested into the things that it's gonna do with me, and he waits on what I want him to do as a command. So if I, as an orchestrator of Jackson's training, so I tell Jackson to sit, and he does that job, and he will get a reward, and his reward can be dog treats or the ball again, and we can do that process. And when he gets his reward, he waits for me again. What's the next activity that I want him to do? For example, if I say vänta in Swedish, which is wait in English, then he will wait, and then he gets a reward, and then the process goes back to me, and I decide what to do next. Search and high five. He can do all of the tricks. So it's a good illustration or a good example of durable functions. And aside from the type of functions that I mentioned, there's also entity functions, and they're special because they're used specifically for durable entities, and they're only available for versions 2.0. And it uses a special type of trigger called entity trigger. And currently, as of date, it supports .NET and only .NET and JavaScript languages. So the orchestrator functions are very important in building durable orchestrations or workflow, and it is important to think and consider that orchestrators, they should be deterministic. What does deterministic means? It means that you should design your workflow or orchestrator in a way that you get the same results all the time, because the whole function, orchestrator function, will be replayed. So if you don't design your orchestrator to be deterministic, there are risks that you will be getting some errors in your workflows. And the technology behind this is deterministic API, so you can check or Google that in the Microsoft documentation. And here's a good example of deterministic versus non-deterministic. So if you create a serverless app, for example, a function app with different functions in it, you see that in the non-deterministic, you have lots of functions, but you don't know what they're doing when they are triggered and when they stop. But when you have a determined orchestrator, you have all things in order through a workflow, regardless if you want your workflow to be running all the time or if you want it to be running forever or eternal. Because in durable functions, you can also create eternal orchestrations that can run forever. So it's an advanced features that you can also check out. And orchestrator rule have the do's and don'ts. So when we're developing with orchestrator functions, there are things to do and not do. For example, since orchestrators are deterministic, it's not advisable to generate random numbers or grids because they're not like the same values all the time. So what's advisable to do is that you can generate your grids or random numbers within your activity functions instead. And don't access data stores or configurations from your orchestrator. What you can do is you pass it to your configuration into your activity functions and use the context to talk with your activity functions. And thread actions like sleep, run, or delay, they're also not recommended. It's recommended to make use of the durable orchestration context which has good functions and features to use instead of the thread actions. And do not create infinite loops within your orchestrator, it's because it breaks the rule of being deterministic. While loops also, infinite loops in the orchestrator also can cause problems or errors in your orchestration because the whole orchestration will be replayed from the start to finish. So having infinite loops within it will cause problems. And also, if you're having a consumption pricing model, it might cause your bill to be high in the cloud. So this is something that's important. But if you, in case you have a need to run your functions with a loop, there's a method in durable functions context. It's called create as new. This method is also used if you want to create eternal orchestration. So this is a good method to use instead. And then don't use current datetime. Current datetime because they change every second, every millisecond, so it breaks the rule of being deterministic as well. So there's a built-in special method for that handles datetime, and it can be retrieved from the context. And let's go now to the different patterns that durable functions can solve in our serverless architectures or workflows. So there are about 6 known patterns: the function chaining, fanning out and fanning in, async HTTP APIs, monitoring, human interaction, and external events correlation. And for the function chaining, it's basically connecting or chaining functions together. So as you can see, there are different functions, and the function one runs. It waits for the output of function. Function two waits for the output of the function one waits for the output of the function one gets its output, and then the output of function one is then sent as an input to function two, and so on and so forth. So they run in sequential order. So this is a good pattern because it means while it's chaining functions, it maintains its state. And the next one, function chaining has, this is what is really happening in action behind the scenes. So the orchestrator is kick-started by the starter, and the activity one is scheduled. The orchestrator sleeps, and then the activity one is done with its job, and then the orchestrator wakes up again, and then activity two is scheduled, orchestrator sleeps, activity done, orchestrator completed. So this is the function chaining process in action. But the good thing about this is that when the orchestrator sleeps, you don't actually get charged for functions that are not running. So this is a very one good feature of durable functions, because you don't pay for functions that are not running and doing its job. So there's a possibility that you will be able to save money with durable orchestrations as well. And next is the HTTP Async APIs. It's used for synchronous long-running processes over HTTP. And in this example, I have a method that checks on the response of my website, and I check if the status is valid, and if it's not valid, it shows an error. Otherwise, it's gonna return the code and the content of my website. And next is the monitor pattern. So monitor pattern is used for pulling. So here, for example, if I want to to wait for the status of the job on a certain time. You can gather that monitoring process on that as well. And human interaction is another pattern in which it is special because it waits for an external event. For example, of a good example for this is the approval workflow, in which you send a request for an approval and you wait for an external event. It could be an event where you wait for someone like a manager to click on an email, approve or not, or it can be an external event from another application. So depending on the result of the approval, then you can call other activity to handle that, process the approval or escalate. And then next is the aggregator stateful entities pattern, in which you can aggregate event data over a period of time into a single addressable entity. So this is a good example for that here, where you have you aggregate the data and then you have it save it as an entity. And when you work with durable functions, there are different statuses that you can expect to get, like 200 for OK, 202, 400 for bad request, 404 not found, 500 for internal server error. And when you develop with durable functions, you can use your web browser, or I use Postman to check the status of my orchestration. For example, the details, if you use Postman, you will see that in your request, you will have ID, which is the orchestration instance ID. And then you also have the URL of the orchestration instance. And then you also have the send event post URL if you want to raise the event, the terminate URL if you want to terminate the orchestration, purge delete the history, and also to restart. And I got a question once about if Azure Functions or durable functions are supported in Kubernetes. So I added this information, and if you want to work with Azure Functions or durable functions in Kubernetes, there's a tool called KEDA that you can check out and use in your Kubernetes solutions. I personally haven't tried it yet, but it's something that's interesting that I would like to share with you. So you can Google KEDA if you are interested to integrate it with Azure Functions or durable functions. And as for .NET 5 support, this is like the roadmap. So unfortunately, right now, durable functions are not supported in .NET 5, but the Azure Functions are actually. So there's a plan that in .NET 6 maybe, or the upcoming updates, that the durable functions will be supported. So you can check out, there was an article posted about it, and also in .NET Focus event, they had this roadmap shared as well. So you can check it out on the link. And so if you want to use .NET 5 for Azure Functions, there's a good guide about that in MS Docs. And as for the best practices for durable functions, for monitoring, it's advisable to use application insights, especially for monitoring running instances on the cloud when it's in the production. And when you need to update your durable functions, it's good to version your durable functions consciously, because if you just make changes and do the the deployment, there is a possibility that it will cause errors. So you need to, because they're, especially if they're already in production, so you need to version to do versioning when you want to make changes in your workflows. So it's recommended. There's an article. They said that it's recommended to do side-by-side deployment or deploy with breaking change. There's an article in Medium about the blue-green deployment strategies that I recommend you to check out if you want to learn more about the deeper best practices of durable functions. And for error handling, uh, you get a function failed exception when you get problems with your workflow. So the solutions, or several ways to solve it or to handle it, is to call another it's to call another function activity and catch it. And there's an automatic retry on failure function in that you can use as well, the call activity with retry async. So it looks like this. So you have call activity, retry async, the name of your functions, and some of your retry options. How long, when do you want your function to retry, and how many max number of attempts you want it. And of course, the traditional error handling that we all know as developers, the try, catch, block, to handle the errors. And here is an example of an error handling with try catch. So you have call debit, credit, and then if something goes wrong, then it will handle the error and credit the account. And for developing Azure Durable Functions, you can develop it directly on Azure Portal. But if you want to code it locally, you can use Visual Studio, or VS Code is also great. And you would need to have the Azure Function core tools downloaded in your machine. And for development, you would need a web browser and a client for web requests. I use Postman to access the endpoints. And also locally, I use the Azure Storage Emulator to check on the history and the logs of my durable functions. And for learning resources, I would like to recommend checking out Microsoft Learn. There are a lot of great information there. And the Azure Functions durable documentations, and then Azure Functions University by Mark Tucker. They have it's a YouTube channel called Serverless in Azure, and they really have good lessons from a beginner to advanced, and even code challenges for serverless development. So I check on that. And also, Mark also have a good example about how to create eternal orchestration and external event. He's on the expert level of durable functions. So if you want to try checking out how it's done, creating eternal orchestrations that runs forever, you can check his channel. And I created a blog about Azure Durable Functions on devs, just for the basics and the fundamentals of it. You can also check it out. And now it's time for some code demo. And my demo is about a simple console app where I'm gonna be greeting a list of people in a text file, and I will be using function chaining as my pattern in backend. And here I have a durable client function that kickstarts the orchestrator. And I have an orchestrator function that creates the workflow of my actions or tasks. And I have three functions, activity functions. One functions that reads the input strings or the names from the text file, which is about 100 names. And then when I get the output of that, I save it as a list in an object. And when I get that, the orchestrator sends that data as an input to my greeter, the second activity, the name greeter activity, that creates the list and greets every person in the console app. And then when that function is done, it's gonna save the output of that result to another file, another text file. So that's my demo, and let's see if I can share another screen with you. Let's see. All right, so here I have my code here, and let's see. So I have a function chain example here, and here I have a list of name, which is about 100 names, and here is my output result. So here I have my chain functions. So here's my orchestrator. I'm reading the file I'm reading the names from the file, and I have the first function, call it with retry options, and then the second chain, and then the third activity. So I'm gonna run this, and while it's running, I will be also having my my postman in the background, so you see what's going on. So I will be using copy and paste the HTTP start and paste it in my postman to trigger the orchestration. And here you can see that that it's currently running, and it's doing fast, but it's currently running in the background and executing the greetings to every person in the list. And when it's done, it should be posting the name here. It says done, saying hello to 100 people. And if we refresh this one, you will see that the runtime status is completed. And if I check the output file, which was empty, it now has many greetings printed from the names here to the output on another file. And if I want to monitor the logs of my instances, I can also use the Azure Storage Explorer to check on the status of what was really going on behind the scenes. So that is my my demo, short demo is about. I see that I'm running out of time, so I would like, let's see if I have more. So I would like to share the development tools that I used here. So I use C#, .NET, and .NET Core, and Azure Storage Explorer, as well as Postman. And to summarize, you learned about serverless and durable functions, Azure Functions, and some helpful resources. And if you need to contact me, or if you have questions, feel free to do that. Thank you so much.
That was really great, Jonah. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry. I think it took more on my time,
No,
40
no, no, no.
minutes.
It was precisely on time, and this is really
Good.
great. And then actually we have really good interaction in the chat.
Ah,
Um,
okay. I missed that.
yeah,
So focus
and
on teach.
so so we also had in the beginning we also had Eli actually
Ah,
join us. Yeah, I couldn't be more agree with you, Eli. She's
yeah. Hi,
really
Ellie. Nice that you're checking out. I hope we learned something, even though maybe it's too technical. But if you don't understand, I can teach you the basics. I can teach you how to code.
So, so for those of you that you don't know Ellie, she's actually a very big advocate of diversity and inclusion in the workplaces, and then she's running a lot of shows that highlights all actually women in tech. And it was a great honor to have you, Ellie, here. And yes, Jonah is a super inspiring person. I do agree. So, okay, so let's go through some of the questions. Now we had here. One of them is actually from Nick. I do believe that you answered it, but maybe we can go through it. So he asked, what would you recommend to use for communication between Azure functions? Service bus with Event Grid with Event Hub.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for the question, Nick. I think the question for that actually depends on what you are currently using for a solution. For example, if your current application is needs to use service bus, then there's actually a queue trigger that you can integrate with Azure Functions. And event grid is also good if you want to work with events. So it really depends on what kind of solution that you have. But Azure Functions should be okay to integrate with any of those using the triggers.
Yeah, great. And we have,
I hope I answered the question for Nick.
yeah, Nick, you can actually type in the chat. I will highlight it for Jonah. And there is another question from Nick as well that
Yeah.
he asked, can you have actually reuse activity functions with multiple orchestrator functions?
You use activity functions with multiple orchestrator functions. I'm kind of honestly confused with the question, but I think you mean is it what you mean that if it's possible to use multiple orchestrator functions? I believe that's what Nick means. But in durable functions, you can create sub orchestration. So within your orchestrator, you can create sub orchestration within it, and in your sub orchestration you can call your activity functions. So I think it kind of answered your questions, if that's what you mean, Nick. Otherwise you can re-ask me questions, or we can connect. I can We can dig
We
deeper into what you're wondering.
we have one more from Nick. So,
Favorite questioner.
so is function chaining for durable functions only?
Okay, is function chaining for durable functions only? I think you can also do that in service bus. You can also do that in service bus, I know, because I also like working with different technologies and recently checking out service bus. So you can also do function chaining with service bus. But the good thing is of using function chaining in durable functions is that you're keeping the state, so it's stateful. So that's the big difference. I hope it
So
answers.
Nick clarified the previous question. So he referred to the same activity functions with different orchestrators.
Okay. Yes. I think
So
you can only kickstart with one activity functions. But Orchestrator can wait for external events depending on which kind of pattern that you're using. So there's a pattern that I showed that waits for external events as well, like triggers in HTTP requests. So that's it. Hope it answers. Well,
So
a lot of questions.
yes, we have, and I really hope we
Oh,
have
good.
time actually to go through it. And let me actually, meanwhile, I to save the time, I also
Yeah.
share the kind of my window
Yes.
here with a link to the Azure here. So maybe I
Yeah, I can stop sharing.
no,
Wait, let
it's
me see.
fine.
Okay.
I can just
Okay.
change it. So
Hmm?
so we have so if you want to get your Azure Heroes Learner Badge, you can scan this QR code and then follow the question. And meanwhile, follow the instruction, not question. So okay, and then the question that we have again about the orchestrator. So does the orchestrator have the same triggers and bindings as a non-durable function?
Um, yeah, I don't think so. It uses the context. So you have the client functions that kickstarts it. It's like the entry point. So I don't think so. But you use the context to send data from your client functions, which are non-durable functions, and then you use that context in your orchestrator to get the data that you want to pass in. So, yes, I hope that answers your questions or clarifies it.
Yeah, you can write in the chat. I will let Jonah know. And then they have one from Oscar. How do you avoid infinite loop? Is there a
Oh,
way to
interesting. A
do it?
lot of
Yeah,
questions.
that's good.
So
Yeah.
it's a great topic. Time is sorry, but those they can always get back to me for more questions and connect. To answer the questions, to avoid infinite loops, you can use continue as new instead in your orchestrator. And if you need to have loops, do it in your activity functions instead.
Hmm. Yeah.
Hmm.
Thank you.
So,
And one more from Nick. Do we need to do versioning for non-durable functions?
versioning. Okay. You mean for Azure Functions? I think that's what he means. I think it's important to do versioning in every development that we do, regardless if it's serverless or not. So versioning is really good for being safe, especially if those are functions that are already running in production. So versioning is recommended.
And there was a question about that if actually we will share the presentation. So Jonah is going to send everything to me, and I will have
Yeah.
the follow-up email with all the resources.
Yes.
And
Yeah. Good.
Darius is actually talking. Oh no, not this one. Sorry, it was I clicked on the wrong one. But was
Uh,
talking about Jackson as well. That said that
yeah.
he
Good.
looks like a good doggy, and I said that I indeed because I follow you on Instagram and I see all of his progress
Oh,
in the training. So I do his
great. Yes. Yeah. Just let me know if you want to get inspiration for dog training.
yeah, that's great. And
Yes.
and then let me go through the questions to see that. And there are also kind of that few comments about the thank
Yes.
you and then great presentation. So
Thank you.
I believe
Thank
I I,
you.
I believe I followed everything, but otherwise you can reach out to Jonah um,
Yes.
and then get in contact with her. And
Yes.
so yeah, I mentioned that this is the link to actually to have the your let me just go here. Oh, sorry.
It's not
I
easy
miss my
doing it all
co-host.
alone.
Yeah,
Yes, you're doing multitasking, but you're doing a great job.
thank you. So, okay, so yes, so follow actually the instruction and this QR code to get your Azure Heroes Learner Badger. So this is the new seasons of Azure Heroes, and for those of you that you don't know what it is, so Azure Heroes is like a token of appreciation where we give from Microsoft to the developer community. Oh, and I see Jackson is here as well. So, and and these are the NFT tokens, non-fungible token without actually any monetary value. But the value, as I mentioned, that is based on that how rare of these badges. And in order to have them, you need to have a digital wallet. That's why that if you scan this QR code, it's the very first time you have it. You need to download an app from a partner engine to save all of these badges. And remember to back up your digital wallet and also have your password secure. If you lose your password, and you will lose all of your badges. So that's the way that blockchain works. But then in comparison, then you will have your badges forever. So, and to learn more about the program and nominate yourself or your community friend, you can go to this URL and then yes, and check it out. And then our hashtag is Azure Heroes, where you can share your badges, your achievement, and then see what the community thinks of Azure Heroes. And there is a Twitter handle for it as well, which we announce all of the new updates about the program. So, we see that one of the one of our
Yeah.
audience here that he lost all of his badges from last year. Sorry
Oh,
to hear
okay.
it, but this is a new
Yes.
season. You can get the new
Yeah.
one, and this time you remember to
It's
save
good that
your.
you do a reminder to do backups sometimes. I try to do that every time I get a new badge. So,
Yeah, it's actually that there is a one good comment here that he lost it with the phone. The thing is that because the way that it works, your wallet is on your phone. So if you're getting
okay.
a new phone, actually you need to back up your wallet and then recover it on your new phone as well. I personally also learned it in a hard way, so I know. Sorry. And the other thing was that about the other is about the feedback form that I really need your feedback. Please scan this QR code and then give your feedback to us. And also, if you have a feedback for Jonah, I will gather all the feedback and I'll be send it to her. And as I told you that one of you that you fill out this feedback form is also get a swag box. And in the feedback form, please let us know that, of course, about all the improvement that you want to see from us, and also the topics that you want to know. Because after all, this is totally your show, and we want it to be the topics that you actually want to hear. So please let us know. And then, okay, the other way. So, and as upcoming events, I started. Okay, this is our next week, which is on April 27, which is going to be about Azure Percept, which is a very new IoT device that we just released from Microsoft. And then Carl is going to have a really exciting show with a lot of cool demos. To be honest, I really like to see all of the IoT demos. I know they are very good. And speaking of that, I also run another monthly show, which is called Maker Show. It's in the same meetup on there. You can go to aka.ms/maker show. And we will have the IoT topics there normally. But this one is on Dev Show. And I really recommend you to join and watch it as well. And yes, I never learned to go forward and backward. And I recently started another initiative, which is SAS Academy, and which is on every Wednesday and Thursdays. On Wednesday, we normally cover the topics that they are a little bit more off towards the kind of the business decision making, or topics where we have more of it's the tech topics, but it is mostly for the CTOs and architects to be honest. And on Thursdays, the talks they are for the developers. So this week we are going to talk about DevOps, and specifically we are going to tell you that how actually at Microsoft we adopt the DevOps culture and how we implemented it within all of our products. And especially on Thursday, we have Dave from GitHub that is going to have a way more in-depth topic talk about that. And you can see all the upcoming events on aka.ms/SAS-academy. So with that, I believe it's time to say goodbye. And it was
Yes.
a great hosting you, Jonah. I learned a lot
Thank
from
you.
you, and I really love how innovative you are to create
Thank
your
you.
presentation with all the really good samples that you have. Hope
Thank you
to
so much.
see you again actually at the Dev Show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here, and thanks for watching, everyone. Let's get connected. Bye bye.
Yeah, bye bye everyone.